Lost the thing.
Living.
What?
4, 5.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, where is it? Where is it?
We're
Is
online.
it live? Cool.
Looks like.
So we are in. Hi everybody. My name is Lilian. I'm part of Queer Punk Resistance, and we were supposed to be a festival that would take place in Berlin last year, but it didn't happen. There was a pandemic on the way, and this year we will also not be able to have the event we have been dreaming about again. So we decided to maybe try to do like an open stage that will take place on Sunday, and today a panel discussion. So to start and like break the ice, I want to ask you all to introduce yourself. I will start with Patricia. Patricia, because
Yes.
you was just fight me, and then maybe we do a clock.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm really glad for being here, and thanks for the invitation. I'm Patricia from São Paulo, Brazil. I've been playing music for a long time, and I play in a band. I play the bass in a band called In Venus now.
I just want to make a quick comment. I already saw Patricia playing live. Can't say exactly 2007, 2008.
Which
Patricia
band?
Hydra, that I used to love. So
Wow.
I saw Hydra in South Brazil like 12, 15 years ago. I can't count anymore. But anyway, please, Asha.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Asha. I'm based now in Amsterdam, Netherlands, coming from Warsaw, Poland. I'm an illustrator. I work for reproductive justice groups and collectives, but I do also have experience of playing in bands and touring, and yeah. So here I am. Hi.
Hey. TofuQuing, if you want.
Yes. I'm 35 years old. I'm a vegan person. I still believe that straight edge can be great without cis guys. I used to play in a hardcore punk band, female fronted, and by girls in my city in 2007 or 6. Lillian can know more. I just forget.
Moreover.
My English is not so very good, but I can try, and I talk very slow to try to connect the words. I used to live in Brazil when I have another bands with another people. While I lived there 3 years and a half, I was touring in South America. I was part of collectives here about feminism and veganism. Always connected these two topics, very important in my life. And now I'm just managing my restaurant to know broke in this pandemic. So basically that, and then we can continue.
Thank you.
I am Vo. My pronouns are they, them. I was born in Aotearoa, otherwise known as New Zealand. I'm Vietnamese. I'm a child of refugees. I currently live in Portland, Oregon. I've run a record label for 12 years, and I've been playing in bands for 15, almost 20. I don't remember how many, a long time, maybe 20 years. And the last show I played was January last year. Right before February last year, right before we were in quarantine. So we've been in quarantine since then and haven't had shows for over a year. And I also am a contemporary artist, and I just published a book, a graphic novel about trauma and supporting like communities through times of trauma. So I do lots of different stuff.
Yes, maybe I could talk about myself as well. I didn't mention I'm a person like my pronouns are she, her. I'm involved with hardcore punk for over 20 years, I think 21, 22 already. I am 38 years old, and I'm from South Brazil, but I immigrated to Germany 8 years ago. And I already played in a couple of bands. Actually, the reason why I met TofuQuing in life is because we went on a tour with our bands, a crazy tour in 2009. That's how we became friends. Yeah, we still have some traumas from that tour. That's why we are laughing. Sorry. And and then nowadays I don't play in bands yet because my this first time of living in Europe and Germany, I could only focus my money in surviving. I couldn't, unfortunately, afford to be on a band, buy instruments. But I hope that things can change now after 8 years and after this pandemic. So I have 2 band proposals. I hope someone will work. And also because of this pandemic, I started a podcast in small record label now in February because like TofuQuing, I also work in the restaurant gastronomy field, and everything is shut down here in Germany since November. So I am unemployed since November at home. So this was something very positive in my life to try to find the meaning in life, because when everything you do is taken for you, like of course there is a reason. I'm not like I understand the situation, but yeah, that was really important. And enjoying not enjoying, but like talking about this, I will address like first a question for each one of you, if that's okay. And of course, like feel free, like if you have anything to add to someone's comment. It's not like I don't know how to, I don't have the word in English now, but this is supposed to be like a chill conversation. So please, anytime you want to add something, feel free. And that's why I will start with TofuQuing, because we both are people working in vegan restaurants, while TofuQuing on their own restaurant is still working. And so I will start with one of the questions I have for you. In my opinion, you are a great cooking chef. That's how I see. And how have been for you to keep your mental health while you're managing your restaurant and cooking during those uncertain times?
Oh, since I am, I don't know, 14 years old, I work with vegan food, like in a third world place with less ingredients, with no money, like with just beans and rice and some flour, and we can do great things. So we survive in this cheap way to afford veganism so many years here in the place. Um, I was working on streets, selling food on street, sandwiches and muffins, and in hardcore shows, I was the girl of the vegan food. So everybody was searching for the person that bring the vegan food. My dream was always have a place, but a little place, like a vegan cafe, little, just me and somebody else trying to help me. But then with the years, they became the job and the sustain of my entire family, like my mother, my brother, my cousin, everybody working here, and a lot of friends of mine. So the vegan bunker turned in something that I can imagine more big. Like I have 14 employees in one moment, and now we are just 4. So you can imagine the worst thing in pandemic for me was to tell people, go home, we can't pay, because I don't have support from the government. I don't have security things. Just it's just a DIY, and I don't know, a family business. So it's a small thing, even when people think that it's bigger, because it looks like a big restaurant, a serious restaurant, because of the food and the media and the followers of Instagram, but it's still a family business. It's a small thing. So I do everything. I clean bathroom, I cook, I pick the trash, I do the Instagram shit, like talking with the people that came here. It's a lot of pressure. So I've been in this 9 years nonstop, just like trying to figure my life and my hobbies and my relationships. By vegan bunker turned into my dream, but also into my nightmare. So Sometimes I feel like I hate vegan food. Sometimes I feel like I need to do something else. Like I need to connect to punk again and do bands. But the restaurant took my whole energy. Like, like 12 or 30 hours per day, stand up, cooking, carrying things, talking, thinking, creating, figuring out. It's just a lot of stress. When pandemic started, also here in Chile started the revolution, like months before. The entire, like Colombia now, Chile before the pandemic was in this state, and so was the system, entire system was very broken, and also the pandemic. So I think in my mind in that moment that I need to close, like I need to close the restaurant. So my entire family was very nervous about it, and I feel very responsible to have this running. Like even when everything happened, I never have a lockdown. I came every day to the restaurant, even when nobody in the city, like nobody in the street. And I came here like a ninja, like on street, like running out the police, coming to my restaurant, cleaning, doing some things, running the shit, like, keep maintaining and keeping trying to do a lot of things. But in that moment, something stopped, like the noise stopped. So I take time to myself for the first time in 9 years. Like, so gender things came, like dysphoria appeared, like voila. Gordophobia, internalized gordophobia, fat phobia. Gordo is fat. Fat phobia internalized, my dysphoria came, appear issues from the past, relationships, abuse, a lot of stuff. So when I was here alone in my restaurant cooking, I make my own therapy because I was not able to pay for therapy. So I was reading, taking time, because it was the very first time that I really stopped to to connect with people and act and do what people expect about me. Because you can say something like, okay, all bodies matter, blah blah blah, I don't know. But in the daily life, how these things can affect in your head when you're alone and you have nobody to support you, or no words, or nothing to read, not a feminist friend beside you trying to calm you down, like, was very like my own therapy. And that's why I decided 1 year ago, start my testosterone replacement thing, talking about my pronouns openly to my family, about gender, talking about my identity to my circle of hardcore punk friends that I have. So for me was this, like, pandemic destroy me but helps my mental health. And I never feel like before, like I have so clearly, like, the things that happen into my body and my mental health now. I think that this pandemic was not happening. I still like working my ass off and doing a lot of stuff and bringing stuff into my life. Let's just, it's that I'm coming out with you with you, because I don't talk with this to anybody till things happen for real. But this identity coming out started with pandemic, and this is the most important thing in my life now.
Yes, it's the pandemic has two sides. It has been literally destroying the lives of other people. It has been making life of lots of people very, very hard. I actually really avoid to complain about the issues I have here, because I know I'm not an European, but I have a lot of privilege by having a visa to live legally in Germany still. But the pandemic could start as a reset to your mind, like, or to your life, so that's thank you for sharing this with us. I just want to comment more about work in a restaurant. I feel you. I when TofuQuing and we met, we were very young and dreaming about like being vegan bakers, and TofuQuing gave like vegan baking workshops in Brazil. It was so cool. And I think we didn't have idea by that time, because we didn't have experience how exhausting working in the kitchen it is. And with me, what happened is that I am actually thinking of with the pandemic, a lot of things happened, but the thing I have been thinking a lot is to actually, what can I do to stop working in restaurants? Because I'm vegan as well. I work in vegan place for like a long time. But a bit before the pandemic, I was actually working 10 to 12 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. I thought I would have a burnout. There were not enough people at work, and then suddenly, a bit before it shut down in November, every week someone had contact with someone that had COVID. Someone got COVID, so then people couldn't work. So our team started like to shrink. So I was working like I literally was just going to work, coming home, sleeping, going back. And so actually I was dreaming like, oh my God, I need some holidays. Then I took the holidays and the pandemic started. So, but yeah, I won't let other people talk. But one of the things I came to realize with the pandemic is as well, like, how can I still be involved with vegan gastronomy? Because it's not only about the food, but it's also a form of activism for me, because I'm an ethical vegan. But this thing, like, I had a friend that for a moment she thought of maybe quitting her life, because she had a vegan cafe here in Berlin, and she was working 60 to 70 hours a week because she was the owner and has to do something. So she closed. So I cannot. I'm just sending you solidarity, TofuQuing. Of course, I cannot understand how you feel, but I had lots of examples, and I feel you. I will say, make a question to Vo. Vo, you, as you said, you wrote a book called Trauma Holding Space Radically, and it lays out strategies to support oneself on community members. Did learning and writing about trauma help you in your local community during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think so. We've been in lockdown for 14 months, so since March 2020. And when it first happened, I did support a lot of different organizations and mutual aid groups and direct action groups in responding to the different needs that came up in the beginning, and what people need in the beginning of a quarantine or in the beginning of a pandemic is very different to what they need 6 months later, and then 6 months later, and now it's very different again. And I think learning, like, I've been teaching about trauma for 6 years, and I think understanding how it impacts people really helped people think about what they can do to support communities. But yeah, I think there was a lot of judgment. It's the main thing is that there's a lot of judgment around how people cope with trauma, right? So when they're like shutting down, or when they're in a fight mode and needing to, maybe they feel very activated and want to have an argument or something, there's a lot of judgment around that stuff. And my role was to kind of help build understanding, like, this is how people are responding, and that's their way of responding to trauma. So instead of judging them or deciding they're bad people, we need to understand the ways that communities will always process things differently, and we can support them in those responses. So yeah.
So, I actually didn't mention, but I think I remember about you, Vo, because you lived for a while in Berlin, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. And I think I saw, because a bit before you came, I told people I actually knew the bands they play in the past, but I didn't have the chance. And I saw a concert of First World Problems at Kopi once in the basement. So it just came to my mind. I forgot to say before. I didn't know anything about your life, and to be honest, and because we didn't had the chance to be introduced when you used to live here, and I'm impressed with the work you were doing. Just I don't know, just to mention. Patricia, because actually that's how we pronounce it in Portuguese. Um, I have a question for you because I sent some emails to everybody checking in. So Patricia and I, we exchanged some emails and talking about the things that Patricia is doing in her life right now. And so I have you a question based on this. You mentioned you have been interested in natural food and nutrition as a form of self-care. As a person that believes in food justice and in food as medicine instead of pharmaceutical drugs whenever possible, this subject really interests me, for real. Boring vegan here. I'm really interested. And what change did you do in your life regarding your nutrition? Did this change help with you when we all had to face this new routine we are following right now?
Yeah. So before, when I introduced myself, I forgot to say that I'm studying psychoanalysis and psychedelic science as well. So as TofuQuing mentioned, I had the same thing. I was working too much before. Like I was never home because I was working very far. Like São Paulo is such a big city, so usually you take like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half to arrive at work and and come back. And so I was like crazy working with publicity, is that right?
Yeah,
Merchandising and
marketing, yeah.
stuff like marketing, but like producing photo shoots, and it's not really like my thing. Like, of course, I like the people that I work with and organizing things because I'm a producer and I work in films before. So, but I was working with this and so far away, and at the same time, I was practicing with my band like every weekend because we decided to release an album, LP in vinyl. So we had a year to compose, and everybody had work to do and family, business, etc. So I was quite overwhelmed. So the pandemic situation came, and I've been quarantined since March last year also. So it made me think a lot as well. I stopped and thought about myself. What I'm gonna do now? So nutrition was one of the things because I was already interested, but I didn't have time because I didn't have time to cook for myself much, just sometimes, and I was eating outside. So I was like reducing meat, reducing like. Dairy and animal products, but once I was like all the time outside and I hadn't start for real, it was really difficult. So I was just reducing, reading about it, but I didn't have time to practice. So when the pandemic situation started, I actually had the time to make this decision and to practice and to try new things. So I start to learn about it and reproduce recipes and stuff. And now I'm like, I'm not gonna say I'm a vegan person because I didn't go further to look about other issues than food because I know there are many. So it's lonely. I am learning about this, but about food, I'm eating like natural vegan food. I'm cooking for myself, trying to build a resistance, not only political but like immunological, because I start to think how we eat so much junk, so much poison, and that's what they want. They want you to get sick, to buy medicine, and to spend money on pharmacies and doctors, and not to be able to actually avoid those things by eating better. Of course, this information doesn't reach everybody, because there are I don't know, but I can say about Brazil, we have like people hungry, many people hungry now. So yeah, I can't talk about this. Oh, it should be better for everyone. So some people just want to eat anything, But it could be a solution as well if things would reach everybody, and if the big companies wouldn't be greedy and shit like they are. But also, I want to tell that this thing started with me because of pain. And I think it's very important to say that, because pandemic situation brings pain too. And pain is very hard, but you can make a transformation out of pain. And for me, it started when I had herniated disc, very strong. And I spent like 3 years in bed, basically. Sometimes I would get over my crisis, but after 2 months, I would be in bed again. And my worst crisis, I was 6 months with pain every day in bed, just standing to go to the toilet. So I had a lot of time to think about myself, those years. And because I couldn't actually move and in pain. So my transformation started there. And with the pandemic situation, and then I had time to put in practice, because I like to say that, because it's nice for people to think that first, think about it. Don't pressure yourself to make this change out of the blue and then you changed, because sometimes this make you not change. This makes you think, oh, I cannot do it. No, first think about it, then read about it, then little by little change little things in your food or in your life, whatever it is. We talk about food now, but that's how I did, and it worked. It's not like a change like out of the blue, and then if I can, oh no, I can do it because too much. Yes, it's too much. So go slowly. Because at some point you will be there, like researching, practicing, being interested in having a healthier life. And then you can realize it's really good to take care of yourself and avoid those painful situations.
Yes, I'm so glad you can feel better. I actually, just to comment on what you say, I have some friends checking this live right now because my mobile is popping up, so I can see my friends like commenting here. So I'm aware there are some people that know me, so they can confirm that since actually we had 2 phases of the pandemic here in Germany. We had the lockdown from March until May last year, and then we had the feeling that things were getting better. Germany used to have like lower cases, like in average, comparing to other parts in the world. Germany was in theory with a lower rate of cases and stuff. And we actually thought, okay, all we need now is the vaccine and it's over. Then like when it started getting colder, and that's why in November everything shut down again, then came the second wave. But honestly, I believe we are already in a third wave that never stopped after the second. You know what I mean? Like it's different from the first time. We didn't got like a few months that there was no lockdown anymore and stuff. And this time, for the first lockdown, I became the crazy lady of the fresh juice. So every week I got like one of these cold pressing machines, found an offer like on the internet. And so I have been doing like fresh cold pressed juice daily, with lots of ginger, everything I can, like spinach. And sometimes I post like I'm alone, so the only people I talk with is on the internet. And so I share something like, sometimes I get like 500 grams of spinach, and people, what are you doing? Like, juice. So that is me now. And just one last comment before I move to ask something to Asha, is that we live in a cycle, like a very unhealthy cycle. The affordable food, at least for the classes, for the masses, for people that can't be buying organic all the time, affordable food has poison, has GMO. This food kills us. This food like make us sick. We have to go to the doctor. We have to get medicine. And this it goes, like the food makes you sick. You give your money to pharmacy industry, and some, like, I can tell it by my grandmother that used to take like 12 medications a day because of so many heart disease and so many problems. Like the heart disease medication was good for heart, but will fuck it up something else in her, like the high blood pressure medicine was good for this, but I don't know. Then she had other surgeries afterwards because the medicine that was supposed to help her was also making her sick. So it's a cycle, like, as if we don't break in some way, or if we are not, like, I totally agree with you. There's so many people starving, and sometimes it feels like it's a privilege to be talking about the food we want to choose to eat. But at the same time, the innocent food we see in supermarkets is also that is affordable. It's made to be affordable to people buy, and it's not healthy, and it's also killing us. So it's very interesting. I don't know. I would call clarity. I don't know how I can call those moments we have in lockdown, but when you have like time to think about and then do whatever you can, whenever possible, to take care of yourself, I think it's amazing. I will move now to Asha to make your first question. I think your illustrations are amazing. I check it, and I want to know if did the pandemic had an influence on your creativity and motivation to draw? Like, did it happen to you that you had more time because of the pandemic? Because I mean, I do have friends that actually don't have more free time because of the pandemic. I have friends that are doctors or nurses, and for them it nothing changed. But for people like me, I'm locked at home. So how was for you?
It's a very cool question, and actually when you sent it to me earlier, I took some time to think about it, because it was good to step out from being myself and to look at the last year or last 14 months through this perspective. And I also checked on social media when I was sharing my drawings, and I realized that the first 2 months I was obsessed with drawing. I was like constantly drawing stuff, expressing myself, like all the challenges, all this insecurity, or this whole situation that was like, what's gonna happen? What is going on? And also how it was affecting my private life, my relationship, my mental health. Like, it was pretty impressive to see how vocal it made me at the very beginning. And I remember also that some people were contacting me later, like friends or someone I don't know, and they were like, yeah, I can relate to that. It's emotionally difficult. It's very challenging. It's like there's such a state of risk that is at the same time in this weird freezing moment of like, you don't know what's going to happen next, and how do you deal with that? So that was the first phase, when I think I was just digesting everything that's happening through drawing and obsessively drawing about reality. But actually, since April 2020 in Poland, the abortion rights were at threat again. Like, it was, it's basically not legal apart from 3 situations, and one of them is fetal abnormality. And politicians and activists thought that it's the perfect situation, perfect conditions to actually remove one more possibility of having abortion in Poland, which a couple of years ago seemed unreal. But I was thinking that this is like a perfect shock doctrine situation. Like people are stuck, situation is unsteady. So let's push on some laws that are like harming people even more. And this first wave of protests in April 2020, I was also like obsessed with drawing. That was also like another kick. And then this time brought a lot of attention and a lot of pressure to my work, because I work for organizations, but also like informal collectives that support people in having access to safe abortion. And it turned out that it's just very difficult to have safe abortion during pandemic, like especially in country where access is so limited, like people are already struggling. But having closed borders, having a lockdown when you cannot leave your house and you're over 12 weeks and you would rather go to a clinic than have it alone with pills at home, made it super, super complicated. And actually, a lot of people couldn't work during the pandemic, and my work doubled during the pandemic because of such a huge need. So at some point, drawing was like on a second place, and like supporting people who need abortion, and networking and organizing with other activists how to do it, how to provide this help, how to do it in sustainable way that we don't burn out, whether it's in Poland in collectives or is it in Europe in collectives that are helping people. That was a heavy part actually, and I think that was a very important moment of how we had to reorganize to keep on supporting people. So I think that had a huge impact on me from the side of drawing, but also like later limiting my possibility of drawing. So that was a big one. And I noticed that it kind of I think I'm quite happy with how different groups maintained. Like people were on the edge, people were very stressed. There's also like, I think when you help people with access to abortion, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of like stigma that people have to deal with. And it's the people who will have the procedure, but also like while helping people, you also like carry these emotions. This is emotional labor. And I noticed a lot of people getting very tired. And at some point I noticed that I'm also like, I do experience this compassion fatigue. I'm like, it's very difficult for me to support people. And there was a moment when I was like, okay, dear groups that I love, I have to like set some boundaries and limit my availability, because otherwise in 2 months I'm done completely. So that was also a strong learning moment of like, we want to help and the situation needs help and mutual support in so many ways, but at the same time we have to be observing boundaries to not hurt ourselves while helping. And the nice observation is that in some groups that I'm like working with, it did work. Like people were vocal about their boundaries. People were vocal about like, hey, I'm on the edge. I might burn out in 2 weeks, so maybe I'm going to take time off. And I'm happy that this culture of like queer feminist activism is like learning more and more about issues of burnout, sustainability, but also like open communication about how much you can give and where is the boundary, because otherwise you will never be able to give again. And there's still so much to learn and there's still so much to get better at, but I think lucky in the context that I'm in, it worked pretty well. We cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
While that's happening, yeah, I'd love it if everyone can maybe put in the comments like links to your cafe and your art, because I think it's interesting to hear you talk about stuff, but I would love to get more information about the things you're talking about. I'd love to see your illustrations and hear your music, Patricia, and look at the cafe, TofuQuing. Oh, cool. Instagram. Oh, this is the private chat. If you can click on comments and then post it in the comments for everyone to read, for all the visitors to read. Cool. Can we do that? Oh, maybe we can't do that. I'm not sure.
Yes, I found.
Okay, great.
And it was very interesting what you said about the boundaries, Asha, because I felt the same way. I worked with Girls Rock Camp in Brazil for 7 years in Brazil. Was the first rock camp in South America. We started in 2013, and I really love the activism we do there. But after 7 years, I felt this way. I felt a little bit like, well, I love doing that. I've given so much, but if I don't stop, I cannot do other things as well and help people in other ways. But it's very important to acknowledge this, so you can just say it and then you can go and do something else. Now I help them, but not as an organizer. And if we don't realize, maybe you can get a lot of stress, and maybe you cannot even know where this stress is coming from. And because I was able to realize, and then I open space for other things, like I'm studying to be a therapist, and I want to help like differently now. Actually, I can do both, but not organizing, because then it's too much. But it was a very nice thing you said.
Yes, I guess I'm back. I just to let you know, I'll know what was going on. I was we have another private chat for the Queer Punk Resistance, and I was like, I need help, bring me back. But now I'm back, and thank you for keeping the talk. It was really, really nice. We are talking about communities and boundaries, and what can we do or not. And I want to ask to everybody, how do you manage to do your activism at the moment? Exactly like as we mentioned already, like Asha said that she needed like to establish her boundaries also for her own health. And how was to the rest of all of you? How was for you to did you manage to do some sort of activism during this pandemic, and how you found a balance about between collective care and your own personal care? Whoever wants to, I don't know, answer first can raise the hand. And please.
Yeah, I think that, this goes back to like trauma strategies of taking building understanding of capacity and understanding community capacity and personal capacity, and what you when it's harmful, when we all want to help, and we want to help as much as we can, but at some point we cross a line where it becomes harmful to other people and to ourselves to keep doing it if you're already past burnout or you're past fatigue, because when you are burnt out, it shows, and people can see it. They can see you don't care as much. They can see that you're not genuine. They can see that maybe you're sarcastic and maybe a little mean. So I think in the beginning, in where I live, there was hundreds of mutual aid projects very quickly. And then people got really tired very fast because they're driving everywhere, dropping off care packages to everyone, food and medicine and other things. So it became maybe 2-3 months in really about sustainability and how to recognize the organizational boundaries, the collective boundaries, and maybe your own as well. It's really, I think the book, but also just my teaching is really about building up awareness of, okay, you know, we're all living in a traumatic time, which means we're going to be exhausted a lot quicker. We'll also have a smaller window of tolerance, which means that we'll be able to handle less emotional stuff as compared to before. So if we understand all of those things, you know, like what are these strategies, or what are these like different things you can practice for yourself and for the people around you. But yeah, that's a very brief like description and response to your question, but I think it's a really big, important question that we still need to ask ourselves with Black Lives Matter, with abolition, with all of these different issues that people want to keep working on, and the problem is still there, but people are tired. So it's like, how do you sustain these movements?
I got the chills with your answer, because it's how it feels like you saw inside my soul and saw what's going on with me. And I had to blow my nose to not cry, because my fluid has to leave from somewhere. So I was like, okay, maybe I can hold the eyes, but the nose I couldn't control. Thank you really for sharing. And I will not slap on your book. I will definitely get mine. Who wants to comment next?
Oh, Asha, you can come.
Here are they talking.
Oh, we miss you, Asha.
Okay, I can go. I was just talking
You're back
a moment ago.
Okay.
That's why I didn't want to take space. I think what helped me was different practices, including different body practices that come from somatic teachings and somatic work, and they were helpful for me personally, but they were also helpful for me to do them collectively with other people. And there were some people with whom I could do them in person, like, for example, a friend that I met, or my partner who I shared it with. But at the same time, there was a big magic of discovering that some of them can happen online. That especially if people did work, with their bodies together in the past, like there is this body memory to come back to it and search for work, search for movements that strengthen us, that bring us to community, that bring us into this collective body. So that was really very, very helpful for me with surviving and with sustaining myself, but also access to nature. Like right now I live in Netherlands, where there's not so much nature. but we, like, especially in the first half a year, we were not in full lockdown, so I was able to take a train and go to the sea, and that was really, like, first month I was doing it every week, like, kind of. That was my first part of therapy, actually, to just look at the sea. Okay, the world is on fire, but sea is all the time there, and nothing is changing this. So that was very, very helpful for me. Thanks.
If you want now, TofuQuing.
I'm involved in my city, in my region, in my country, in the ballroom community since 7 years. That's why I started to develop myself, my identity in another way that punks not allowed me, like being surrounded just by cis hetero white males for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years of my life. I never tried something else, like about performing, about acting, about dragging myself, about dance, and be really able to do that. And when I was into hardcore punk scene, I always have this parallel side in my head of another tastes of music, like always like it to dance salsa, reggaeton, merengue, another Latin rhythms, but I never talk about this with the people from the hardcore punk community, because like dancing was not allowed in my community. Like, like punks don't dance, like, this tough stuff, don't go to parties even if you don't smoke or drink something, you don't go to parties, blah blah blah. And this kind of identity of person that don't use drug, don't dance, don't smoke, don't have a, I don't know, this topic is still, people still say promiscuous because it's so, I don't know, like this kind of identity that the straight edge community built into this. There's topics that you can't do, so dance was a part that I allowed myself 6 or 7 years ago, when I discovered ballroom in videos, meeting people from the community from another parts of the world. Like in Brazil, the scene started at the same time that here. Like South America was the last place of the world that received the ballroom culture, because this is something from New York that expanded to Europe. In another places of the world, there's a lot of voguing houses and ballroom people. It's a big community. And the most difficult part for me is because we started something so big for me. Like hardcore community was one time in my life. Like voguing is the most important thing in my life now, with another things, but the community that brings me ballroom culture, like intersectionalism, racial topics to talk about, gender things to talk about, identity things that I never touch in punk community. I don't know, like punk community things, they are very political and radical, but when they talk about love, desire, sex, gender, identity, feminism, and things that really matters for me, people also like, like they close their eyes and okay, it's something that they allows to feminism, but not into hardcore punk. It's feminism, it's another thing, and I was this feminist person inside this hardcore punk culture that don't fit for me anymore, because my things in my life going to another way. So I stop it to develop myself with hardcore punk community and search another community that embrace myself in the way I am. So I discovered ballroom, and it's different to, like, we stopped dancing, like the ciphers stopped, like the workshops and dancing and meeting your friends to dance in a park, in a how can I say, in an academia.
It's like academy, like
Yeah, it's an
dance
academy.
academy.
Or even do our events, the Kiki functions. That everything stopped before the pandemic. So there's a lot of people that really needs ballroom community, because they're trans people, they're people without jobs, without healthcare, without really biological families not exist. So we are these people from them. So we have this parenthood, like mothers, fathers, sisters, siblings in ballroom. They are like fake, but they are real. I'm a real parent for a lot of child that make voguing. So the most difficult thing for me is to stay away of these people because of the pandemic. Just stay in touch in the screen and stop dancing, because now I think that I can't move anymore. Like I used to dance in 2 years ago, 1 year ago and a half. But I think the body has memory, and everything changed in me, my identity, my thoughts, my mental health. So I think that I'm going to dance in another way also, because my body is receiving all this new energy, is refreshing, my body is resting, my muscles are resting, because voguing is very hard, like, I don't know if you have been seeing voguing like in videos. It's very hard, like it's a lot of exercise, it's a lot of pressure for your body.
But it's
And
also very beautiful.
it's very beautiful, and I'm very in love. This is my, I don't know, it's my biggest crush now in my 30s. I want to vogue till I die. So I hope everybody that have the opportunity to have contact in touch with people in the ballroom community of their cities, go there. Just, you don't need to dance or be part, but be there, support, go to functions, pay for workshops, or support the trans people doing the things, or another teachers, Afro-American people that teach voguing, because the culture are from Afro-American and Latino culture. So it's very important that we support this culture, even if it's not related to punk. It's because the politics that brings me to punk are just in ballroom, not in the punk scene. So, you know, like, it's different for me. I pick the tools that hardcore punk brings to me, and I use in the voguing and the ballroom culture.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Patricia?
Yeah, for me, what helped me during this time was to be in touch with my friends. You know, eventually we video calls and check on each other to see how we are, because in Brazil we are, I think everybody knows, we have this fascist as a president, and he's like in denial of the pandemic situation, because he wants people to die, actually, you know. It's like around, like last year we had, well, okay, it was like high. Now we are like 4 times higher. It wasn't supposed to be like that. He refused vaccines. Like in last year in August, where all the countries were dealing with vaccines, he said, "Oh no, for 11." The guys from the companies, vaccine companies, will. Are you sure you don't want? No vaccines. And now we are fucked, basically. So what can we do is to check on each other, to try to help organizations. Like in the beginning, I was working. Now I'm not working anymore. But when I was getting, receiving money and stuff, I was always trying to help, like whatever it would come. You know, a friend of a friend needs, okay, like some collective, how do you say when a lot of people give money to, I forgot.
Fund, like fund
crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, yeah. So I participate a lot of that. Like a friend of mine was cooking food to give to homeless people. Then I was, I help the way I could inside my house, because it's really hard. Like, actually, there was no lockdown in Brazil. That's the problem. No lockdown. I was people who can and believe, and who can, because some people have to go to work and couldn't like adapt the work at home. But people that could be at home, we are in lockdown for a year. But like, there was no proper lockdown, and that's why we are fucked. There was no proper government money benefits.
Yeah.
So, like, we are in a situation like really, 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 really hard. Like, over 400,000 people died, and the vaccines there, is gonna be like very slow because of him. So what can I do? Just hope for him to get down, because it's the worst person that could be in the government right now. Like, the worst. Like, we always had troubles with government. We had betters and worse, but this is the worst, actually. Because he's homophobic, he's sexist, he's like racist, he's like, it's unbelievable. And what is more unbelievable is to believe that people voted on him. So I have to deal with people in my own country that actually are okay with that, and find excuses for his behavior. So, okay, besides that, we have to check on each other and everything. I try to not to see the news all the time, because I know what's coming. Of course, I need to know, but not all the time, because if I see every news every day I will get mental. So I start to focus more on helping my friends, being helped by my friends, focusing on my studies. So I discovered during the pandemic times that I wanted to study to be a therapist. And it was something that was like, it was like something that I wanted, and I forgot about it during my life and did many other things. And because music was always the most important thing in my life, so I didn't want to commit so much in something else. So I was always working with other things that I didn't need to like study so much or put so much energy. So because it's been a year, I don't see my band because we don't have the courage to meet. So I start to study, and I decided that I want to help this way now. I wanna be a therapist that have all this, like TofuQuing like said, we have the punk tools, and I want to apply for that now. So I want to apply for a therapy with my political sense, and if and that I can like have social benefits for people so they can have these treatments as well. So I study a lot, and that's what helped me, because if I wasn't studying, I was going mental. So I started to study like really for real on August last year. And then I discovered psychedelic science, because one of the things that made the transformation with myself too was drinking ayahuasca tea in Brazil in rituals. So that came after my herniatic disc, after my surgery, when I got rid of the pain, and then I start to I discovered this world of psychedelic experience, and that really transformed me. And now the science is really advanced on this, like, and I really hope in a few years we can use these tools, these like ancestral tools, with respect, but like for people to feel better and to have more possibilities with their mental health than taking like medicine every day. So that's what made me not get crazy here.
If I may, I just want to add a few things, because I'm also Brazilian, and even if I don't live in Brazil, all my family is there. My sisters, father, mom, nephew, everybody is there. And the thing is, Brazil was offered from 11 companies a total of 700 million doses of vaccine, and because we have a pandemic, a COVID denier as a president, among other horrible things. He's I can say this like openly. He's a disgusting human being. So that's what happened, and they also passed legislations to give even more money for people that are in need. The levels of poverty and hunger in Brazil are on the sky again since his government, but of course, because of COVID. So Brazil used to be like a place where there were a lot of kids and people like suffering. Then some governments, I'm not saying they were perfect or they were angels, but at least in some governments that were seen as a more radical, more left wing, they really took people. It was the first time in 16 years that Brazil left the how is the word, like
the zone.
Yeah, the zone, like
misery zone.
Exactly, like these catalogs that you say, like each country. So we left as we say in Portuguese, the misery zone, but we are going back now since Bolsonaro. Thank you to him. And so it's horrible. From here, because I also want to give you like some comment what I could do. One thing I was very desperate since the beginning of the pandemic is how this have been affecting homeless people everywhere, but then in Brazil. So until December still, because I was working, I was sending money for groups that are giving food for people on the streets every month. But then when I got half of my wage cut because of the pandemic, I mean, I don't like to complain because I'm still getting state support to stay at home, but what I earn now only pays my bills. So I had to stop. But I'm daily. That's as you said. We can't watch the news every day, or I don't know. We will. I don't know what we will get our mind very fucked up, and this is sad because I wish I could help more. But this is one of the reasons why a year ago I left Facebook. I used to have a Facebook account, and I couldn't see anymore all my relatives, family members, and also friends. Everybody daily posting about, I don't know, anti-vaccine. Some part of my family, even if we are black, some part of my family is pro-Bolsonaro, others are not. And then it's so like I have I'm safe because they don't speak English. My stepfather is a military and he's very like um, on the side of dictatorship and racism. No, the racism not, but dictatorship and like Bolsonaro, like fascism. So he really flirts with these things. He's a white man. My mom is a black woman, so that I can't be in contact with my family anymore. I send maybe like one message here, like on apparently Instagram, they don't feel so encouraged to say they bullshit. I don't know. Maybe it's the dynamic of Facebook. I have no idea. But then at least on Facebook, on Instagram, I will get is have a nice week, have a nice day. So that's why I really had to cut a lot, like contact with other relatives, because a lot of theory, conspiracy theory and stuff. No, it's that was really really bad. But yeah, let's go back. I don't want to be like annoying you guys with just to add something more to what Patricia said, because the situation in lots of countries that they would refer as third world are facing like a nightmare. And access to vaccine, it's at the moment actually there are people being vaccinated in Brazil, but guess what, is like people with money. And like there's I was seeing like TV channel owners already vaccinated, and I don't know, people in my family not, like, so what's going on? But anyways, let me move to the next question before I start crying. Well, we are connected here because of punk. So even if maybe we are not playing anymore, maybe if some of us don't want to ever be in a band again, what connected us to this panel today? It was because in some point of our lives, or still, we had a connection with punk. So I want to, and I mean, all of you I met or I saw like playing in bands or because of bands. So my question for everybody is like, how is your interaction with music at the moment and your connection to the queer punk scene, if there is one? It's for everybody. Take your time. Take your time, but just so you know, it's a general question.
At this moment, I'm not producing nothing related to punk or hardcore stuff. I don't even listen so much noise, providing of negative lyrics, because I think that growing up in certain messages of negation. How can I say
Negationism.
negationism makes me sick. Um, Very like I was a person that have a lot of anger troubles and a lot of familiar trauma with relationship with my parents and blah 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 and stuff that I was always covering without this another topics of my life. And I always feel that I have a lot of years of my life bringing too much noise in my chest, like too much noise in my head, too much noise in my chest, that I was hiding so many important things with music, with hardcore stuff, going to shows, screaming, writing things, being politically correct, that I forget the simple things, like to enjoy, like to smile, like to be silly, not to be so smart, to have silly and simple conversations, not just like having this political and how can I say, quando você tem concordância, quando você tá falando e
Agree
tudo tem sentido, assim.
that everything makes sense.
That
That's you.
everything makes sense. I forget to watch TV and watch like stuff for kids that I really enjoy, like Hey Arnold, The Simpsons. Have these silly times like being relaxed in the sofa and not just like going to the sofa and think in the next project that I've been involved with. Like I finished a project and I was into another project, and this other project bring me another 3 projects, and I can handle everything. Like, you know, like I was, yes, I'm into this. I'm going to translate this, and I'm going to participate in this, and send it a text for this place and this. And I was not able to have like space to redecor my house, to change the paint of the walls, like to visit my grandma, because I was always so busy. Busy feminist and vegan topics all the time, and I was involved in a ball, like to do things for the others, because I was trying to think that that helped me too. But at the end of the day, I was helping, and I'm not like I have no regrets of that. But I think that I never again I'm going to allow myself to put projects on the front, like when I'm not able to like to breathe, like to have gender dysphoria, to talking about like I'm good, I'm fine, to helping each other and being an ally, when I can stand up on my own bed, you know. Like I need to talk about my feelings, I need to talk about my desires, I need to put that first for the very first time in my life. I have 35 years old and I'm late, but I'm doing it, and it's because of the pandemic. So it's a good thing of the pandemic. But I'm producing music for ballroom culture. Like I changed my topic, like being a singer of a vocal band of hardcore stuff and scream, because I don't feel that I need to scream now in the middle of the people that I'm involving myself. I just say the things that I think, and I don't need to scream in a sea of cis males to hear me and validate me. So I'm producing voguing beats with DJs all around the world, like Brazil, Sweden, collaborating online. I'm Chanter. That is the name that the MC of the ceremony of the Kiki Ball has the name. You present the people, introduce the categories, cheer up, do jokes, be silly, like presentation. And I'm really enjoying this phase of my life, because I was thinking that I was not able to do that thing, but I think that I'm a person that have capacity to change energy, and I was so negative in one time, and now I'm so positive in this scene and a figure, and I don't want that people have scared of me. I don't want to be the tough girl in the hardcore scene to say the things that I really need to do. So I want to be the nice person, the person that you can go to talk and ask for help, or, you know, like talk about anything, and not to be like so far of the people, and try to do real connections and real changes, because I was involved in a community that of course that I met a lot of people that it's great, and I still have like Lillian, like Adriesa, like another people in my life, but there's a lot of negativity and trauma from the hardcore punk scene related to boys that is a topic that with Lillian we all talk about so much. But this time in my life, I changed my musical taste. I'm trying to listen more house, Latin beats, music that bring me joy, and have this, like when you put something in music in your radio and you started immediately to dance and enjoy yourself. And and I'm trying to allow myself to do that, just not bringing so much information or message with that, just enjoy, just that.
I was just
Mia?
going to respond very, very quickly and say, like, someone who's been straight edge since they were 14, and also someone who identifies more as masculine. I think I hear what you're describing is maybe a breaking away from machismo or masculinismo, like this thinking of like being closed off or being like intimidating and having to be strong for everybody. So I just wanted to say, like, I'm hearing this, made me move or change from like always being this idea or this personality to maybe like, queering it and like changing it a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I will just also comment something on this question. I actually, one of the projects I want to do is with Adriesa. So we didn't meet yet because I'm a very asthmatic person. As I don't know, I make the joke that I'm not asthmatic. I'm very asthmatic. So we are avoiding until we can all be vaccinated. We are avoiding because even dust triggers my asthma sometimes. But it's really complicated because we really want to play, but especially, I don't know to who is aware of what has been going on in hardcore in the US in the last 2 weeks. I really don't want to be connected with those people anymore. Like what I have been listening and seeing. This is so mind crashing for me. Like seeing people from the hardcore scene making fun of Black Lives Matter. What the fuck? Like disrespecting or I don't want to go in that direction. I just want to say that I'm in a kind of limbo. I really want to play with Adriesa. I can't wait for us to have a band. But we will have to keep things in our community because this kind of people, I just want distance. Like it's like people, so many people, like this kind of the dudes and stuff keep calling us victims. Is this the word? Like that we make ourselves victims and stuff. But how do they want me like to feel safe is in wherever they will organize when they comes like with t-shirts making fun of Black Lives Matter? Like for real, do you really think I want to feel like? And then calling people that didn't want to go to a concert 2 weeks ago and I forgot how to say it in English. Aglomerar, like that they all get together, like what, because the like social distance is to keep people from getting together, so they managed to put 3,000 people together in a park in New York. Congratulations. And telling that the people that didn't want there, they were cowards and stuff.
They like Bolsonaro's.
Oh, Trump is no, because they would tell you they have nothing to do to Trump, but they are really doing all that right-wing people does. But anyway, I don't want to be. This is about us, not about them. What I mean is, I don't know how it will be after this pandemic, because in one hand, I can't wait to play with Adriesa. In other hand, we will have to be very isolated because this kind of people, we don't want anything to do with them. Please, next. Don't want to be taking your space. The question is about music, if we are doing something, if we still want to do something.
Well, I'm going to comment then. I was thinking of what TofuQuing said, and I identify not about the punk hardcore scene, but about when you are doing so much things and you don't do for yourself. And I think like when you like next project, I think I've been there, and I think it's a kind of escapism. Like we escape to see what we really want. We escape to have time to be able to see. It's not like, oh no, we don't even know what's coming. I don't know if that's the way it was for you, but for me it was like that too. I was doing so many things, and I couldn't just think about what I want to do. And relating to music, I well, I haven't been seeing my friends, my band, but we just put out a new album. So throughout last year, we worked on a distance, like on the not recording, because we managed to record like 2 weeks before the quarantine. So I was like, yes, we managed to record. But in the post-production, mixing, mastering, and all the things related to the release. And now we release the album and we cannot play a gig. So I don't have any idea when it's gonna happen. But I'm not in a rush because, whatever. But the same time, I was always like, I had another band before that I played the guitar called Widra. So I had 2 bands and I worked and this and that and that. So at the same time, for me, it was good to have this other life without music for a while, without like playing music or being committed to it, So so I could have space in my life for other things, other kinds of music too. I started to listen more like 80s, like gay music, or like ayahuasca songs, spiritual, like ritual songs, like very opposite to punk in a way. But that what moved me. Like in the beginning of the quarantine, I was only into like these ritual shamanic songs. And it was very good for me to listen to positive messages and another kind of rhythm that is not like so obscure and heavy. And for me it opened a lot to space to relax and space to think about what I wanted to do. And that's how I started my studies. So it was very important to be a little bit far from it so I could open space for these new things in my life. I still love punk. My bands are like play post-punk. And I'm really proud of the record we released. Actually, please, guys, go to the link and listen to it because we worked so hard for that. But at the same time, it was like vacation from it, not from this band exactly, but I've been playing band since end of 90s.
Since
ever, and always in projects and projects and projects, and the projects were in front of me, and at this time I could ask, and what would I do just by myself? What can I? Because I was always working with people. Always, I love a group. Let's do in group. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. I'm a producer. Let's do it. And what can I do by myself this time? Because and then I found my studies, and I'm so happy. And music will keep going, but I took some time off now of that kind of music to do other things.
So cool.
That is so nice. I feel like in all that you 4 of you have said, and I related to this question, like something resonates with me. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I've been playing in bands also for like 10 or 12 years, but there was a moment when I was like Patricia, like what you're saying, that at some point I was like, do I really want it still? Do I really need it still? Does it make me happy, or do I feel like I have to keep going because this is like what built my identity for myself? And what if I stop doing it? Am I gonna be still part of this community if I'm not a musician anymore, if I'm not like on stage? So that was like a big thing to yeah, to quit the last band that I was part of and be a bit like, what's gonna happen now if I'm not in bands? And yeah, but at the same time there was a big relief of like not wanting to be any, like I was struggling also all this time with even if it's, yeah, like my heart lies in like queer feminist punk community, but I feel like it's a community that is struggling so much on being on a margin and not being like how to say it, like appreciated or like seen or understood by the majority of hardcore punk scene. It's like being all the time on the edge. It's like fun to be on the edge, especially with such a cool crew, but I felt like throughout this 10 years like so little has changed. And yes, cishet guys all the time like giving the straight direction, it's just tiring. And then being someone who talks about emotions, emotional labor, let's talk about feminists, let's talk about relationships. I felt like it's like pooping in a crowd, like if you have farted there and they're like, no, actually we're here to be cool and tough and maintain some kind of image. And I think I was just also very tired of like struggling with it and like wanting to be part of something big but not being able to be, like it's exhausting. And yeah, when I left last band it was heartbreaking, it was really super sad, but also I had a feeling of relief and of this curiosity, what is going to happen now, how can I be part of this culture in different ways, how can I be part of this scene in different ways, can I be still part of it actually, or yeah. So these were big things, and sometimes I have this moment of like being sentimental, like, oh, and touring, releasing stuff, people appreciating, having conversations after shows, like there's so much magic and I'm so grateful for this experience. But I'm also like, yeah, that was it was great, thank you very much, let's move to other stuff. And I'm also very happy that like queer punk community is like expanding in so many ways, like that people are like so much into informal education and skill sharing and like deepening a lot of topics, that there are like festivals where music is important part but workshops are so important, where like there's different ways of relating to each other. So yeah, I think I'm still like in curiosity of like where is my place, and also like how the scene is growing and changing and developing also in the time of pandemic. And I think this panel that we all have been invited by like a queer punk community from Berlin is like, yes, please, this worked, I'm so happy. And I guess we can all get still creative and be like, yeah, even if we cannot play shows or don't want to play shows, maybe there are other stuff that we can be doing together, because like there is magic in this community. Yeah, so that's from me.
Did everybody answer? No.
I would like to answer.
Yeah, please. I was
Yeah.
confused.
I
Sorry.
think that punk and capitalism are sometimes the same, right? And so sometimes playing shows and selling merch and all this stuff is just a part of this larger capitalistic system. And to break that system, or to break that cycle, you know, we do have information sharing, we build community, we like do the different types of emotional labor that lives outside of capitalism. Because if we didn't have all that, it would just be consumption, consuming a show, consuming products, you know. So I say that also because I moved from Berlin to here, Portland, Oregon, and Portland is where tragedy came from, is where all these really like annoying like male, you know, but you know what I mean, like they're really professional, they're very very like corporate punk bands that are from here. So what I mean to say is like, you know, I haven't played guitar since I moved here, and I've lived here for 6 years because no one would ever take me seriously as a musician because I'm not from a band like Tragedy. In the city, it's like impossible to participate in that kind of punk, like, because of my identity. So what I'm trying to say is, someone who grew up not white, you know, I'm not a white person, and I grew up in New Zealand and Australia. Someone who grew up not straight, and someone who is, yeah, just not part of dominant culture in so many ways. I never tried to be part of those dominant cultures. There was no point for me to spend my time and energy to try to prescribe to mainstream hardcore. There's no point. Like, that's not, you know, that's those people are not my people. So when I played hardcore, it was just my version of hardcore. Or I'm also a metalhead. I really like metal, and my record label is like an anti-fascist metal metal label, and that was mainly because I knew that I'm not here to try to be part of mainstream metal. I'm here to make my own space in the metal scene, which is anti-fascist, person of color led, queer led, feminist metal. And same with, like, you know, Zine Fest and all of these different spaces that we are part of. And I think the pandemic, relating back to the pandemic, it reminds a lot of artists, not just me, I've noticed in teaching, that people basically a year ago had this pause of like, what am I doing? Why am I trying to be professional? Why am I trying to be part of a capitalistic system of art when I could be doing what makes me happy? And like really move towards what nourishes you. What do you want to build in the world? What do you want to see in the world? Why am I spending time caring about what other people think? And so back to Lillian and your band with Adriessa, you know, you're going to be building something of your own, and it doesn't matter what those shitty dudes say. If they're stupid enough to shit talk BLM, then that's already reflected on them, and they've already labeled themselves as complete, like, you know, idiots. So you can always like stand by what you're doing. But my point is, like, if you spend your whole life not being part of these, you know, being straight edge and not being a dude, and if you're always seeing like, okay, that's them, but they're wrong. And here I am doing my thing, and I like doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And if people want to join, that's cool. And if they don't, it's fine. But like spending energy trying to be part of these more dominant cultures is like, so it's toxic in my opinion. So yeah, I think the last year, not just for me, but for a lot of people, it's been a chance to stop and recalibrate and to think like, what's meaningful for me, what's important for me. A lot of people I know who make art that wasn't political suddenly had to become political because everything was political, like in June of last year. So, it's times like that, like when there's a global Black Lives Matter movement, when you find out who your friends are, you find out who's an artist that you care about and that you want to listen to, and you find out people that you actually, I don't want them in my community because they don't care about this thing that's very important. So that's, I mean, I'm a little bit hardcore, like, oh, I just, you know, like cut out everybody I don't like, but that's literally how I've been able to build the things that I care about. So that's my answer.
I actually, I'm a bit confused now. I will ask you again, Vo. Does your record label, is it still active? That's the only thing, because I want to ask you about your record label, but now I'm like, should I ask? Because
yeah, it's like a not-for-profit, not capitalistic record label that's been going, and it's still going. I'm about to release 2 records.
Please, that was about.
So Ragana, a band, they're like a band from Oakland. It's 2 women, Maria and Nicole, and they've been together for 10 years, and this is the 10-year anniversary. So I'm releasing 2 records for their 10-year anniversary. I don't know what else to say. It's just the metal scene in where I was living in Australia when I started it. Then when I moved to Berlin, and when I lived in London, and now when I live here, there's always these people present who are fascists. and they secretly try to be quiet fascists. They like try to sneak in, like, oh, I'm a Nazi, don't tell anyone, you know. And so like my label was a response to like, are you a Nazi? Then what, you know, get the fuck out of here, you know. And also to attract people and say, hi, I'm a record label who's definitely not a Nazi. So if you want to find a label that is not a Nazi, that's me, you know. So just there, and surprisingly, there isn't a lot. There's like a few labels in the States, for example, but there's still not a lot of labels that are very clear, especially in metal, about their politics. And this confusion to me is racism and fascism, and like secret fascism sometimes. So that's why it exists. Oh, cool. Yeah. So that's why I started it. It was in response to this community that is global, and it still exists. And especially where I live now, there's a lot of fascist metal people. Yeah.
If I can quickly comment, as we're talking, that we had a lot of time to think about our lives and what we want to do. Well, some of us, but anyways, that's when I also had the idea about the record label, because I was like, yes, I miss concerts, I miss getting connected with people, but I don't miss some parts of this. So yeah, thank you people for putting my label there. That's why I start with my people. That's because it's people like me. That's the idea. But it's also, the name comes from a very cool band called Zulu. That is majority of Black people in a band in California. And just quickly say, I will be releasing the first tapes of our record label. It's a band that it's now actually half of the band is in Portland now. The other half is still in California. The name of the band is Dying for It. So they first of course, there in the US, they were released in like 7 inches, but I'm a working class poor doing it yourself record label. I'm doing tapes. I'm starting humble, and so we are waiting. Actually, Asha, the tapes will come from Poland. We are waiting. We are just waiting to be able to release. So yeah. People. So I think we are going to our last questions. Huh? I'm just scrolling here to be sure I asked everybody. I wanted to ask Asha more about like feminism and activism, but I think you already like comment among of other questions. I think Patricia managed to already comment a lot about like self-care and collective care. I think I just asked about the record label. So just to confirm, I think I also want to ask more about Vogue to TofuQuing, and I think we spoke a bit, but if there's anything else you want to add, would be very happy to listen if you think you miss it to say something.
Okay, talking about radical care and the tools that punk gave me, I was listening the experience of all of you, and we connect in something. I listen and I can like say, yes, that happened to me. Yes, that I want to say, blah, 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 you know, affinity. The thing that brings me out of the hardcore punk scene dominated community, was that I was not seeing people like me. I was not seeing butches in the scene. I was not seeing lesbians in the scene, or gay people, or trans people, or even people from other countries or other regions, you know, like I was just watching the same people for several years doing the important things, the important bands, the important messages, the important statements. So I was just tired to spend my time with people that really don't need these topics, you know. They don't need to talk about like feminism, or they don't need to talk about health, because they're okay with that, you know, like the game of the weekends with the boys screaming, enjoying the music and the t-shirts, and being true till the end, because death before dishonor and all these messages that I have these are big part of my life too. Like I was enjoying that or being part of that a lot of time in my life. So now, or I don't know, 3 years or 4 years more, I don't know, 7 years is more. 7 years, I was just like, what I'm doing here, what I'm doing in the hardcore punk scene, because the messages don't see, I don't know how to say it. The messages are not, they don't make sense for me anymore to talk about like how good is to be a straight edge, or I'm better than a person because that's not my reality. That's not how I feel. That's not how I believe that connections are made. So for me was like a honesty thing to myself, like I'm belonging here in this time of my life. Like maybe for my adolescent and my kid, my kid need that space, to develop personality, saying things, have a community. But now in my 30s, a lot of my feminist people or important people that I met in the hardcore punk community are already in another project, in another steps of their life. So that calms me down. Like, oh, I'm not the only one that I'm going out of the hardcore punk community. It's because Lilian is doing something else. It's because Adriesa, because my drummer from my band is in another thing. It's everybody is working in another topics of their lives, and I see them so happy that I never seen before. Like, so I don't know, I see rich lives, like smiling, another skin, another joy in their eyes, doing another things because they allowed to do another things not related to hardcore punk, like studying, like having the opportunity to travel to another country, like starting a family or develop a relationship with the same connections that we have in the past. I don't know, nobody in the hardcore punk scene never saw me with a girl, like kissing a girl. Never. I was always so afraid of that. So when I step outside of this, like I have my queer life together. I developed my self-identity. I started to dance. I meet my people, like my people record, like my people is not hardcore punk people anymore. Was in the past, but nowadays it's feminist people, it's trans people, it's my, I don't know, immigrant people from all over the world that teach me things that hardcore punk kids never, like these cis guys, heterosexual, can teach me something that I really live, like it's different. Hardcore punk in the music and the message don't, that hetero cis guys make, for me is not something that I'm into it or interest to hear. I'm just here for the experience of other people like you, like QueerPunkResistance, people from another country, girls in hardcore, queer people in hardcore. That's for me, it's my neo-punk, like my new perspective of what I don't know, I think interesting in punk. It's just that. Not this another hardcore punk scene. It's just like, for me, it's over. It's exhausting, it's traumatic, it's hard, it's not in the trending, it's not cute anymore. It's not, I don't know. I don't know how to say.
It's on me because I need to edit, but TofuQuing and we spoke up for 1.5 hours about this. It's supposed to be a episode in my podcast. I just didn't have yet the energy to edit. I have like a couple of episodes with different people I interviewed to edit, but I will find the energy. So if you are interested, follow my people and you will know when the interview with TofuQuing is up. We talk a lot about this actually. People, we are coming close to our end. I want to ask if there is something we missed to speak, if someone wants to add something more, or I don't know, something important that was not mentioned. Please feel free.
Well, I'm gonna say bye then, and before that, I just wanted to say that we're all going through like very difficult moments now. It doesn't matter where you are. I know it's been hard, and we've been talking about self-care and radical self-care, and I think it's very radical self-care to take care of yourself first. Yeah, sometimes we think it's selfish, but if we don't take care of ourselves first, we cannot take care of others. So I just wanted to say not to feel guilty if you need some time for yourself, because sometimes when we just do things like in groups and for other, and we don't spend this time looking inside ourselves and asking questions to ourselves, or doing silly things that we enjoy, or studying something that you never had time to, it's going to be very hard for you to have energy to do other things for others, to actually say, no, now I want to make a group to help this and that, or even to help your friends and family, So take care of yourself, you are priority, because if you don't take care of yourself, you don't do the rest of the job. It has to be done. That is to live in a community and share things and help each other. So that's what I wanted to say. And if anybody wants to check my new album, my band's new album in Venice, it's called Sintoma, and the lyrics are very political, but the rhythms are like inspired in Brazilian music as well, mixed with post-punk, so it's kind of fun as well. You can dance to it, and I hope you like it. We worked very hard for that, so yeah, the link is there, and just go for it. And thank you, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. It was very nice to meet all of you guys. Very nice to spend time with you.
Thank you. Somebody else? Okay, then if nobody else has anything to add, I want to say thank you to you four and to everybody that is watching us and that stayed here with us for nearly 2 hours. I also want to say that to let you all know that this is like a weekend event. So on Sunday we have another event, but we are keeping the link private, so you have to subscribe, sending us an email. We have an open stage on Sunday to who wants to perform something at home, who is alone, and me to, I don't know, being on a concert. So we want to have an virtual concert we are hosting on Sunday. And yeah, feel free to subscribe, and you have to send us an email for that. And thank you, everybody. And I hope you can keep health and sane as much as you can. And hope to meet you all again in person at some point. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much for everything, for your time and the project.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for organizing this whole event and like bringing us together. It's very inspiring and exciting.
It's nice talking
Yes.
with everybody. See you
Yes.
someday, one day. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.